Hi, welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, thanks for watching. Well, we continue our series with the Democratic candidates for governor. State Treasurer Rob McCord is our guest today, and then Mary Wilson from Public Radio will give us an update on what's going on, not too far from where we're sitting, in the state capitol. All of that follows these words.
This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers, a fast-paced, unrehearsed weekly discussion with and about the leaders who shape your world. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
Hi, welcome back. Well, we started this series. We're asking all of the Democratic candidates for governor, give them about the same amount of time, come on a program. We're going to give you a chance to get to know them. And as I've said before, Governor Corbett is always welcome on this program. He's been on the program. We're nonpartisan. And my special guest today is State Treasurer Rob McCord. He's also been on this program many times. And as State Treasurer, you're always welcome on this program. Now, I know when you run, like the governor runs, is he governor or candidate? You're a State Treasurer. You're also a candidate. It also blurs a little, but we have a responsibility to hear what you have to say when you're State Treasurer. So you're always welcome to come on a program.
Thank you.
All right. Venture capitalist, you worked in the private sector, you've worked in government on Capitol Hill, you headed a bipartisan think tank, you've got these varied experiences that you bring. I'm going to let you talk more about that in a moment, just giving some biographical background. Number one question, it's January of 2015. I think I got this right.
Yep.
You're governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. What do you send over to the legislature? What do you say to the state lawmakers about what Rob McCord wants them to do?
Right. Well, issue one is education. Right. And I also think there'd be a fresh spirit of engagement. People would see from that period in early November when Rob McCord is elected governor to that period in January when you're taking office, heavy engagement with people from both sides of the aisle, with every legislator who wants to talk, et cetera. I think that process of kind of grumpy disengagement has been a real problem for just making Harrisburg work. I'm very proud that I came from outside of government, 20 years as a business leader and entrepreneur, et cetera, and then have been running one of the few successful wings of state government in Pennsylvania's Treasury, and people should check that out and check out patreasury.gov and search for unclaimed property and so forth. But education, I think of all the issues, that's been the preeminent one where we're making tragic mistakes. We need to reverse this misguided governor's policies here at every level of education, from pre-K to full-day kindergarten to K through 12 underfunding, to mischaracterization of what's going on around pension funds, to junior college and job training programs, and working creatively to get people into fields that don't necessarily involve 4 years of college, to state schools, to state-related schools, including our beloved Penn State. At every level, we would look to reverse this misguided governor's policies on education. And of course, when people look at McCord and they know my business background and the fact that I've really been very effective at creating jobs and economic opportunity, we would be looking to be the invest and innovate governor who is investing in education and innovating and working on a bipartisan basis to create economic opportunity for Pennsylvanians.
I want to get to some specific issues, but you were talking about your background. I mean, what I've asked candidates to do is come on and talk a little bit about, is there anything in particular that you would cite? I mean, many of the candidates have extensive backgrounds, most of them in government. So would you make an argument that your business background gives you? Now, you have another candidate who I won't mention. Well, I will, because we've been mentioning all the names.
Sure.
Tom Wolf, who's a business guy as well. But go ahead.
And I regard Tom and many of, look, I think competition, I regard Tom as a friend. I think competition can be a very healthy thing. You happen to have exceptionally well-educated, thoughtful viewers. I think it's they are, in a sense, the executive search team in this process. First of all, one of the things that's been very interesting to me, our campaign's only a month old, and we've gotten an unusually heavy level of support, which I'm grateful for, is I realized when I was running for treasurer, people said, wow, a competent business leader who's willing to be treasurer in these challenging economic times. So McCord doesn't seem to be a jerk, and he does seem to be competent. We're going to vote for him. That was sort of the end of the conversation. People want to kick the tires a lot more when it comes to a governor because they realize there's so many issues that they can't anticipate.
You got it.
And they want to have some feeling for where you came from.
Everybody agrees there,
I will tell you, in addition to the fact that they have proof of concept that I can win elections, which is important. They want somebody who maximizes the chances not only of beating Tom Corbett, but of getting things done in a political system. They also know I'm good at running things that serve seniors and so forth. They love the business background that I've created jobs. But you know what surprised me, Terry, is they love the fact that I was raised by a single mom, that we went through our own period of economic insecurity, and the public school rescued me.
Yeah, we're going to run to a break. When we come back, I want to specifically ask you about the lottery, your concerns about the management of the lottery, and then get on to infrastructure and some other important issues that confront the state. We'll be back with State Treasurer Rob McCord. He's a Democratic candidate for governor. All of that and more after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business, and by the Pennsylvania Business Council Education Foundation, educating citizens and business leaders about important public policy issues and civic affairs. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by BetterSaferRoads.com. To voice your support for safer highways and less traffic congestion, visit BetterSaferRoads.com. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
Hi, well, welcome back. I'm chatting with Rob McCord. He's the state treasurer. He's a Democratic candidate for governor. Treasurer McCord, one of the things that has been in the news lately, Governor Corbett's idea about privatizing the management of the lottery. Got to get that right, because a lot of misconception about that. He's extended his contractual talks with Camelot Global Services, a British company that he argues would increase lottery profits. They would essentially manage it, not own it, still being owned by the state. You have some problems with that. You have issued a press release a week or so ago. Fundamentally, what's your concern about that?
Well, you know, you're getting it right. Look, this has been a bad process from beginning to end. And I do come out of business. But as I was saying a moment ago, you know, having been raised by a single mom, I think of the lottery. I think of senior citizens. I think of people like my mom who get hot meals. They get discounted prescription drugs. They get property tax rebates. We need to take this money serious as a heart attack. The only thing that's guaranteed in this bidding process, if it went through the way the Corbett team wants it to, the only thing is that a British business makes money off of Pennsylvania's lottery. So what was really discouraging about this, remember, I ran a lot of businesses. So when you're talking about efficiency and increasing revenues and so forth, I'm eager to engage in a conversation with you. First of all, what was supposed to be a competitive bidding process resulted with only one bidder and competing bidders saying we couldn't get the information we needed. Well, now you smell kind of a crony capitalist rat. You know, this is a bad process.
One bid to do the management.
To do the management. And a lot of this had to do with people blending the question of, you know, is there a way to make more money? And then they have this separate conversation that has not yet been rendered legal or been appropriate, which is about whether or not to expand the lottery. Right. And to try to take credit by giving management to a British business, when, by the way, it's provable that we run the lottery with exceptional efficiency in Pennsylvania. We're in the very top tier with administrative fees. I think is shameful. This should be about protecting seniors, and instead they're blowing millions of dollars on expensive consultants.
So your argument, and I want to put words in your mouth, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, your argument is that the lottery is essentially fairly well managed now. If anything should be done, it should be done with a Pennsylvania-based company if that's what they need marketing help. Why are they going to a British company?
Or at least you ought to start the conversation by taking a look at what's working here. They're trying to, in essence, break something that's fixed. You know, and it's very efficient. It's already a public-private partnership in that you buy your tickets in private businesses. You're watching ads generated by private businesses. It's very spooky when you have a single bidder in any process. And now we've wasted millions of dollars in a bad process. And I think for political reasons, they can't back out of it.
All right, we come back for our final segment with Treasurer Rob McCord. Then we have Mary Wilson from Pennsylvania Public Radio. We're going to get a little legislative update. I want to ask him about two things. I want to ask him about pensions, $47 billion pension debt. At least that's the last figure I heard. Who knows what the actual number pension debt in the two big pension systems. And then roads, bridges, and mass transit, another issue before the Pennsylvania Legislature. I'll ask candidate and State Treasurer Rob McCord following these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by Pennsylvania Credit Union Association. Pennsylvania Credit Unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, check out ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Hospital and Health System Association of Pennsylvania, working towards a healthy Pennsylvania.
Hi, welcome back with State Treasurer Rob McCord, Democratic candidate for governor. All right, let's talk about roads, bridges, and mass transit. Rob McCord, you're governor. What would you tell the legislature to do?
Well, first, I would work with the legislature. You invest respect first. Second, I'm a big believer in appropriate investments in infrastructure, roads and bridges, public transportation included. We should have gotten this legislation done 3 years ago. It had bipartisan support. We had bipartisan blue ribbon panels.
Yeah, but now in the Senate, the Senate passed it.
And so
right.
I think we would be able to push this through promptly in a McCord administration, and not just creating jobs in the near term, reducing traffic in the near and long term, but creating jobs in the longer term. There's a ton of evidence out there that for wealth creation and job creation for all Pennsylvanians, we need to start to do this.
$2.5 billion about a decent figure based on the report?
It's probably $2.5 billion is the right number given the current debate.
Right.
But in fact, you're looking, believe it or not, at more than $150 billion cost in the long run. So you need to be thinking about triaging and making sure you both do it more quickly, but also do it with the hierarchy being how we create the most economic opportunity for the most Pennsylvanians.
And the safety issue is paramount as well.
Exactly.
All right, now I may have you back to talk about this because we don't have a lot of time. Pensions. I know you're on these pension boards, right?
Yeah.
The two big pension systems, $47 billion. It's eating up budgets everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to be careful not to try to balance budgets on the back of seniors, number one. Number two, people need to understand way more than 90%, something like 94, 97% of those pension payments are spent inside the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Number three, a lot of people like to criticize defined benefits in general plans. If that's really true, then stand up, man up, and criticize Social Security because it's the largest defined benefit plan in the country, certainly, and one of the most successful in the world. I'm very proud of the efficiency of what we've been doing on the two large pension fund boards, the work we've done to keep our investments at above the assumed rate of return. And I believe the state government...
investments are doing better.
Yes, they've done, since I've come into office...
What about a private sector? What about a 401k style plan?
So there are two challenges. First, I think there is still plenty of waste. You will be seeing us talk about cutting double layers of fees. I've been on the attack there. I'm only one vote of 11. It gets very complicated, as you pointed out. But the other point to make about 401k plans is you are guaranteeing that you're shipping administrative fees out of the state, usually to companies in New York, California, or Connecticut. Very often, they are less efficient. You pay higher administrative fees than you would in a well-run defined benefit plan. And people are ignoring the benefits of what they call Act 120, a bipartisan pension reform plan that cut the total cost of pensions by $34 billion. Governor Corbett's team came up with proposals that would have increased the total unfunded liability by $7 billion while cutting payments to seniors by about $16,000 a year.
Yeah. First of all, you're not going to cut the pension benefits for retarees and for current people.
Employees,
constitutionally, you can't do that. So it may take a combination of increased, for new people, increased maybe employer benefits, and you can increase payments for the new people, right?
We can
Something
come
to
back
look
and
at.
talk about this.
All
What
right,
they've done
well,
is you take a look at what happened with Act 120. It exactly shifted for new employees. There are the seeds of progress there. We need to not go in the wrong direction. There's always room for innovation and conversation.
All right, we'll have you back. This is complicated, and we want to. It's something that's very important for the long-term fiscal health of the state, but also to protect the pension benefits rightfully won by. And I'm in that system. That's not why I'm arguing. I'm going to fess up as a former professor.
But also, I will
Milledgeville
tell you, the
University.
employer contribution was short-sheeted again and again, and we need to hold the employers accountable.
All right, Mary Wilson's on deck, Pennsylvania Public Radio. What's going on in the state capitol? We got an interesting issue to talk about with Mary when she comes on here after we pay some bills.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by Highmark Blue Shield, changing the way health plans work for business with a variety of plan options for employers and more choices for employees. Information is available at highmark.com. Have a greater hand in your company's health. And by the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association, the future of long-term care.
Hi, welcome back. Well, Mary Wilson joins us. She's often a guest, PA Public Radio, one of the state's leading reporters. All right, Mary. We had what I thought was an interesting debate before the legislature went out for its 3-week break. It had to do with a vote in a committee about placing "In God We Trust" on public buildings. What was that debate about, and where does it stand?
Okay, well, the debate is about a proposal that would require school buildings to put a motto, "In God We Trust," in their buildings. The proposal says it shouldn't cost the school buildings anything. There are no real mandates about how big it has to be or how fancy, how it has to be displayed, except the word prominently. It's not going to be enforced if it's put into effect.
Right.
And where it stands now is it's been voted out of committee and it'll be before the State House.
I thought it was, what was it, do you recall the vote? Was it bipartisan?
It was largely along party lines, but not completely, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, we currently have, I guess some schools have that already, and there are lots of sort of religious symbols that have historic value that we have some debate about, but for the most part, I mean, do you think there's a sense of urgency about this in the legislature, or do you think it's just going to languish and not be put up for a vote?
I'm not sure how much urgency there is to it. I think of this bill as falling into a certain genre of a bill that's part of a lawmaker's personal, part of his personal wheelhouse. It comes from Representative Rick Saccone, who I think about a year ago introduced a proposal that would a resolution to make a year of the Bible, and that ginned up a whole lot of debate and controversy.
Sure. All right, let's talk about another subject that I'll tell you what, it's one of those subjects that you don't think much about, and it doesn't have much resonance until it happens. And then all of a sudden, this debate over small games of chance, which is now largely limited, they are limited to, nonprofits and what do I want to say, VFWs. You go in and you can do these punch things, and I don't know what they're like. I don't do them. But there's an effort being made to expand that into bars and taverns. Do I have that right?
Right.
Give our viewers an update on that.
Okay, so what we're looking at are these small games of chance are things like raffles and drawings. That's the simplest way to describe it. So these are games that have been allowed since the late 80s, like 88, in your Elks clubs, your Elks lodges, and VFWs.
Nonprofits, in
right,
a sense.
And for years there have been, small games of. For years, there have been proposals to bring those games to bars and taverns, who don't think they're on an even playing field with the private clubs, and also the firehouses, some of which also offer these kinds of games for fundraising.
Sure.
The proposal, the way these games are set up in private clubs, you're allowed to keep 30%. If you're a club, you're allowed to keep 30% of the proceeds from those games, and 70% you have to give back to charity. So there are, it's not just for their own operations. They've got to be given something back to their community for having this gambling on their premises. Under a proposal that passed out of the Senate, with no debate on the floor, with no briefings with the press beforehand saying, here, this is coming down the pike. It came out of the blue. The Senate passed a proposal passed one proposal that clarifies some reporting requirements that were going on with small games of chance in the private clubs, and another proposal that legalizes those small games of chance in the bars and taverns.
That's passed the Senate now.
That passed the Senate.
It's over in the House.
Right. It's out of committee in the House. It's before the full House.
I must tell you, I was on some talk shows, and this issue came up, and the number of calls that they got about it, I thought, again, I'm not much for, it's not where I would go normally, nothing against it. God bless people who, support, the nonprofits and go to these clubs and raise money for that way. But do you think this is going to engender a big debate over in the House? Or do you, I understand there's obviously a division, right? Some of the Elks and, they're not so wowed about this expansion, right? Is that what the controversy rests?
The indicators that I've seen suggest there will be a lot of debate in the House, at least internally. The House could have voted on this the same day that they could have gone to the floor and voted on it with the full House the same day that it came through on committee, but they chose not to, and that's because they were in caucus for so long, and I was told that there was a lot of debate, within the Republican, among Republican members on that proposal that came over from the Senate. I think this is, I think lawmakers are saying that they're hearing from private clubs in their district. It is small games of chance that are allowed in private clubs are popular with veterans associations and fraternal organizations, and those groups are going to be very vocal if it looks like the taverns are going to get those small games of chance. The argument here from the private club's point of view is that this is there's a limited amount of gambling dollars out there,
I get that.
And the bars are going to eat into that. The bars say, put us on an even playing field.
All right, before I let you go, we have about a minute and a half left. Here's a question.
Sure.
This whole business of Keno. The governor says on one hand, we'll expand the lottery. We talked about that with Treasurer McCord. We'll use Keno to help. And then over in the Senate, the majority leader says, let's use Keno to do...
Let's use small games of chance.
Yeah, let's do Keno for freezing property taxes. What do you see? Is there any effort that you see being made to move any other gaming legislation? I haven't seen any at the moment.
I haven't seen any. There's a real sense that the lawmakers are under pressure to find dollars. People I talk to say this is all about money. And there's a lot of speculation out there when something like small games of chance comes over from the Senate out of the blue. What else is this connected to? There's a lot of speculation. But for right now, all we're hearing is that, look, we need to find money for this current budget.
But your point is, you make a good point. They don't want to they won't raise income tax, sales tax, and do other fees and taxes. They wouldn't do a severance tax on natural gas. So they're looking for ways, and gaming seems to be, at the moment, one of the ways that can possibly happen, correct? Particularly by using Keno, but you can't use it, the revenues from it, for 3 or 4 different ways, right?
Sure, and to clarify, we haven't seen proposal. Oh, okay.
They're telling me we're out of time.
Maybe not to clarify.
All right, we'll see you next week for another edition of Pennsylvania Newsmakers. Stay well.